by 11.
Yeah.
I should really have an intro for these things. We just kind of come right in. If hopefully people are watching, youtube.com/Bryan Fonseca. Joe Dellera is here. He's back. If you saw what we were doing in the Olympics, it was a lot of this, just talking about the games that were going on at night. And we're gonna play a game of what's real, what's not soon, which is basically 1 week into the NBA season. What's real, what's not. There will be some overreactions, I'm sure. I'm somebody who like, hey, it's the first week or whatever, it's the first month, and then we get to Christmas. Like a lot of this stuff to me doesn't really hit like that until Christmas. But I mean, we can't say everything is fake in the first week, and also it's kind of fun to overreact sometimes. Like nuance be damned, or whatever the case may be. Okay, so as of the time we're doing this, Joe, we also have the Yankees in the World Series.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now.
There's a lot going. There was a point where I'm watching, like I have the 4-box on the TV from YouTube.
YouTube,
TV.
yeah, same.
I have the multi-view, and then on the laptop I have a split screen. One side is the World Series, the other side is Heat Knicks.
It's like, what are you gonna do? The funny thing is, like, it's almost the YouTube TV. I love it because you can do the split screen.
Yeah.
But it drives me nuts that, like, if you only do the side by side, you just have bars on the top and the bottom. I feel like I'm wasting screen. And then when you do 4, sometimes I'm like I have like a 70-inch TV in my the one room, and I'm like, this is not big. Like, it still is too small. Like, it's like I need it to be like I need like 100-inch TV in order to watch this. So it is quite the challenge sometimes.
Yeah. All right. Just briefly on tonight's games before we get into our game that we want to play, let's say. This Pacers Celtics game was really interesting.
That was an awesome game.
Went to overtime. Hit Pacers to cover in the first quarter, by the way, just from a betting standpoint. But I mean, Pacers, I've been kind of waiting for them because they got off to a little bit of a slow start this first week. And seeing that was, a little more encouraging. You beat the Celtics, you beat them at home. It's only the first week of the season, but that was something that really stood out for me in terms of the games tonight. That and the fact that, the Sixers,
Sixers are ass, bro. Just say
it. We'll get into that and what's real or what's not. But I did hit the plus 245 before the season to fall into the play, and I'm not feeling terrible about it right now.
Dude, I think that's a great bet, honestly. And I've been thinking about whether or not I want to, like, what direction I want to buy on Philly. Because, I don't know if you want to get into it right now or not, or if you want to but basically, like, the team is just not the same as they were last year. Because the biggest thing to me, and I think it's been kind of glossed over to a degree, is when one of the players that left obviously was Tobias Harris. And that was like, his contract was an albatross. You couldn't trade him. You couldn't, whatever. I'm not saying that Tobias Harris is like an excellent basketball player by any means.
I thought Stan just hit a home run.
You're a little ahead of me, I think. Now I'm just staring.
Dude,
he just got under that.
Yeah, he did.
At least it's a run.
But yes, it is 6-5. Yankees are trying to push this back to LA.
Yeah.
Tobias
what I was saying about Philly is that Tobias Harris is like good enough as a floor raiser that it like that matters, right?
Yeah.
And like he gives you some floor because it's like abundantly clear that Maxey, I think Maxey's really good, obviously, but I think it's abundantly clear that Maxey cannot just carry this team by himself. Granted, like he's trying to carry a team with two max players, with Joel Embiid and Paul George not playing. Joel Embiid being a perennial MVP candidate on the whenever he's on the floor, right? It's very hard to carry a roster like that without those dudes. But at the same time, he's not doing it. And they were barely doing it last year, where they were hanging around enough. And I know the plus minus kind of indicated that Maxey was like okay, like he was about like a net like +1
Mhm.
in the minutes without Joel, but it's still like that's not gonna cut it in the Eastern Conference anymore. The Eastern Conference is way too good now. There's too many teams that are up and coming, too many teams rising, and I think they're going to be excellent when the three of them are on the floor. But you can't overstate not like the difference between not having Tobias Harris on that team anymore. And it just feels crazy to really say,
Yeah.
but that's really what my concern is right now.
They lost to the Pistons at home.
Yeah.
Now, it was the Pistons' first win, but I don't think this Pistons team is a bad team, but I also don't think, like, and even if you're Philly and you're shorthanded like that, like, you're off to a slow start. In this game, by the way, Tobias Harris at 18 and 14. I don't remember the last time Tobias Harris had 14 rebounds, but I mean, this is a lot to say about Philly because in going into the season, Brandon Anderson and I did a pod about this actually. When they did the Paul George acquisition, it was like, okay, they're working with something here. But to me, I didn't think Paul George was going to just immediately shapeshift things just because you knew he was going to miss some time, not necessarily this early in the year, but you knew that he was going to miss time. And I don't think Philly, and you knew Joel Embiid was going to miss time too. And I don't
Yep.
think Philly is actually that deep. Like,
No.
in looking at their roster, they have some parts, but now, like, Caleb Martin has to overextend himself, which, yes, he was used to that in Miami, but he also is like, he's not.
I mean, when Miami doesn't keep guys, I mean, granted, the contract thing is the contract thing with what happened with
Well,
him.
his agent bungled
Yeah,
that.
like they obviously were trying to keep him, right?
Yeah.
But like ultimately, like when Miami doesn't keep players, it's always like a little concerning to me because I'm just
Yeah.
like, they know who they like, they know who's really good. And then it's like, even if they are good and then they leave for like for contract reasons or like whatever, it's always like, well, like they're not as good anymore.
Right. No, that's typically how it happens. Like, Derrick Jones Jr. is like the rare exception. And
Yeah.
also, I mean, it's not like he became an all-star. It's Derrick Jones Jr. Like, he
Yeah.
became a
He's
useful,
legit.
functional role player. And it took a while to get to that point, by the way. Like, it took him bouncing around and then finding a role in Dallas to be able to do that. But, Kelly Oubre, who, like, if you have him in fantasy, if you have him in category right now, your head's probably spinning because he's getting numbers, but the efficiency, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Andre Drummond is, he's the greatest rebounder of all time, he says, but like he's not Joel Embiid.
No.
And honestly, it's just like we know Andre Drummond from years ago where like it's kind of just a numbers thing with him. Like he's not necessarily going to raise your floor, whatever. Like Tyrese Maxey is by himself is essentially where we're getting at here. Kyle Lowry's washed. McCain is a rookie. We'll see. I think he's actually going to be pretty good. But I mean, what are you really expecting from him so early in the season and in general his rookie year? They're in a tough spot. Our boy from the Olympics, Gershon Yabusele, is putting up some numbers, getting some minutes, but
Yeah.
this team is not. It's pretty thin. I mean,
They're
they're,
thin.
they'll
Yeah.
they'll look less thin when Embiid and Paul George are eventually back. But
Yeah.
like if you look at the sort of hierarchy in the Eastern Conference, and obviously Boston's going to be up there. Cleveland's 5-0 now, and I think they could be the 2 seed. And I thought that before the season started. Knicks, Pacers, who, they got a nice win over Boston. We'll see what happens with them. Milwaukee still has to be mentioned. We'll see where the crop of like Miami, Atlanta is. Orlando is better than probably both of those teams I just mentioned. Like, you name enough teams, and it's like Philly, are they going to have a better regular season record than any of them? Is Philly going to be a 45-win team? How much are these stars going to play? Like, it is a little bit concerning, even though it's only 1 week in.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the problem, right? Like it's the beginning of the season. This is exactly when you think everybody's like supposed to be healthy. And granted, like Paul George got hurt in preseason, otherwise he probably would have played. But like the Embiid stuff is wonky, right? Because
Weird.
like they're just like, yeah, like he's just not good. He's not ready. What like I don't understand. Like, what do you mean you're not ready? So it's tough. I think you have to downgrade them for the regular season. We've seen this before though with the postseason when these teams like have a bunch of superstars playing together, and then you get to the playoffs, but they didn't play any games together. They're not very good because they don't have that synergy. They don't have that ability to play together that well. So we'll have to see what happens, but I'm not bullish on the 76ers. I'm a bit bearish, I guess, if you will.
Okay, let's get into what's real or what's not. First, briefly, just real quick, if you've been betting on the NBA so far this season, I mean, if you're up, be grateful because it has not been easy. We were just talking about before the L's that we've gotten on purely stupid shit, be it injuries or you try to ride the Jordan Hawkins wave and then he goes 0 for 6. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Stephon Castle looks great, and then when you bet on him, he just misses like it's just stupid shit this season. Like
There's been some variance here where it's like it's literally like the next game they go over. It just
yes.
is. It's tough. It's really tough like when that happens because you're just like I feel like I had the right read. Like I thought that this was I thought I nailed this, and then you're like, oh, I did. Just the next game.
Yeah. I thought, yeah, I thought, where's John Morant right now? He's at 14 still. He's not going to get over 18 and a half. That's just tremendous.
I thought he was gonna go over that too. I didn't bet it, but I did think he was gonna go over that. I mean, he scored like 30 plus points in 2 games against the Nets in the last couple of
He's
years.
averaging 30 per 36 minutes.
Yeah, and like
You're playing the Nets, who just went to overtime against Denver at home
and lost.
yesterday. This
I
is
mean,
the second leg of a back-to-back.
like Jaren Jackson Jr. is balling out, so that's
By the way,
probably why.
Brooklyn's going to win this game.
Yeah, yeah. Like Brooklyn's gonna win.
Oh my god, the NBA
It's
is just so
unbelievable.
good. All right. What's real, what's not? So basically, we'll lob some questions, Joe, if you have some on the fly, or if you came prepped with some, please feel free. I will open the proceedings because I have a list. We'll get into each of them briefly, but what's real, what's not? First week of the NBA season, things that we think are going to carry over. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Things that we, don't necessarily buy yet. You could also pass, and we don't have to get into it at all if it's too complicated, but obviously that's less fun. What's real, what's not? We should be very concerned about Tyrese Halliburton. Real or not real?
This is a tough one.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
start
say
this season.
I'm gonna
Better
say
tonight though.
yeah, I'm gonna say not real. I think that a lot of it had to do actually. I was digging into some of like the underlying numbers, right? And Miles Turner was shooting like under 20% on passes from Halliburton. So like and I don't think I've watched like enough Pacers games. Like I don't think it wasn't anything where I was like, oh, like those are tough shots or like whatever. Like he's not setting them up the same way. The biggest thing is that I think there's a little bit too much Nemhard. That's my thing when I'm watching them. Like the potential assists are like in line for Nemhard and Halliburton, and that is probably not optimal for the offense. Granted, they're playing at a little bit of a slower pace. They're not getting as many rebounds. It's been, I think it's been a little bit of a tough start for them. Obviously, huge win over the Boston Celtics tonight, and they, for the most part, they were dominant in that game, and then they let it like almost slip completely away. So I'm not super concerned with Halliburton. I think it's early, but there are definitely some warning signs. Like I would say that there's like like my eyes are on him, my eyes are on that team right now. I have some slight concerns, but I'm not. It's not DEFCON 1 right now.
Nemhard got hurt in that game,
I
I
think
believe.
he, I think he might have. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember something about knee yeah, here it is, knee tendonitis for Carlisle. Okay, because he only played 5 minutes, but yeah, to your point, I mean, it's also been a lot of playmaking. Nemhard is somebody I actually like as like a fringe most improved player candidate because of what we saw in the playoffs last year, and for some guys that can carry over, like
Yeah.
for a Fred VanVleet that carried over, for Jalen Brunson, fellow second round pick that carried over from his last run in Dallas to jumping over to the Knicks and becoming what he has since become, which is an all-star level guard in a conference and in a league where it's hard to be an all-star.
Yeah.
And he should have two. He should have got one that first year that he was with the Knicks also. So with Tyrese Halliburton, yeah, it's not super concerning, especially because you saw him shake some of that. He only shot 7 of 19 tonight against Boston, but did look a little more spry, so to speak. But
Yeah.
it's something I'm watching because I think this Indiana team could be really good, at least regular season wise.
Mhm.
And he needs to be the engine for that. Like he needs to be able to do at least some of the things that he was doing at the beginning of last year, where, we were talking about like, all right, he's probably top 5 for MVP. How high could he get on the ballot? He
Yeah.
gets injured, and that whole thing just goes
Yeah, it
just
goes
side.
completely out the
Yeah,
window.
yeah. So Tyrese, I think he'll be fine, but I would like to see some more signs soon. Ben Mather and Pascal Siakam, by the way, tonight. Whew.
Dude, Matherin has to get minutes. Like he's got to get minutes. It's malpractice by Carlisle when he plays in like 12 minutes. It's
Yeah,
mind-boggling.
43 minutes tonight.
Bro,
So
if he has to play. Like if that dude doesn't play, like there is going to be a stretch. I can feel in my bones. There's going to be a stretch where he plays like under 20 minutes
yeah,
for like 5 games in a row and he's going to ask out. Like it like that like he's way
like
too good.
Kaminga, basically.
Yeah, except like people will trade for him. Like
Yeah, yeah. I loved him in college, and
yeah,
I think six man is perfect for him because he could
yep.
also close. Like he'll close for like Nemhard, Neesmith if they want to go smaller, maybe somebody else. But I think that's kind of what you're
A
looking
lot of
at there. But
optionality, yeah.
yeah, I think six man and might be worth a future if he keeps doing this. Okay, real or not real? The Cleveland Cavaliers. That's the question.
Regular season real.
Yeah, we're still doing that.
I still, yep. I will not. I'm not gonna buy him. I just am not gonna buy him until I need to see it. I really like Kenny Atkinson as a coach. I think that he is awesome. They just whipped the Lakers. They beat the Knicks pretty handily. But I don't. I'm not buying. I'm not there yet. I've seen this. I've seen this rodeo before with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like they look really good. They look like they're incredible. All the advanced stats line up. You get into the postseason, and because of their personnel, you can scheme against them like completely differently than you would in the regular season. Like nobody's running like super advanced and nuanced defensive schemes against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the regular season. It's just not happening. Postseason, yeah, they're gonna fucking do that. Like they're gonna do that in the postseason. So that's my concern with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm gonna say they're regular season real, but I would honestly maybe consider even bets for them to like either be like the like a top 2 seed to win the division, all those things, even like wins totals, like alts, whatever. I would not be betting them to advance out of the Eastern Conference.
Their win total was one of my favorites. I think it was my second round pick in that win totals draft that I did with Matt, Mike
Yeah.
Fiddle, and Jim Turvey. I think that was my second round pick. Um, before the season, I had Donovan Mitchell having maybe his best season yet, which individually is not the case yet. Still very early, but hasn't had to be the case because the team is actually really good.
Yeah.
Kenny Atkinson was the coach of the year. Like a lot of smart people loved him for that. And Evan Mobley, the breakout. I mean, I said Kenny Atkinson will have him shoot more threes, and so far that is bearing to be somewhat true. He's not shooting a ton yet. I don't think he's going to shoot like a ton right away. And even again in this game against the Lakers, he didn't have to. He didn't shoot one at all. But his shot does look better. I think over the course of the season, he'll let more go from deep. And Jared Allen destroyed the Lakers on the front court today, which was
Cooked them.
interesting to see. Just
Cooked them.
20-7. I wish it took his PR, because he destroyed that in the first half. I liked the Cavs before the season started to be the 2 seed to win a playoff series and lose in the second round, most likely to the Knicks, because I would think the Knicks would be like 3 or something along those lines, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's just sort of how, like, I wouldn't take them to beat the Knicks in a playoff series yet, but love Kenny Atkinson from his Nets days. This team is playing, they've been arguably the most fun team to watch. They play fast,
Yeah.
pace and space, they get up and down, but they're also efficient with their offense. Everything they do is intentional. They can make it rain from 3. Darius Garland looks really good. People
Yeah. So
kind of
that's
slept
been
on
a big
him. Like,
surprise.
yeah, like I think the team is really good, but I don't think they can beat the Celtics. I'm not sure they can beat the Knicks in a playoff series. But you could talk me into them beating anybody else in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
I was like that before because like if Philly is even healthy, I think it's at least a conversation. At
Yeah.
least, you
Yeah.
know.
Just personnel wise, they would align well, especially with Philly.
Okay, real or not? Do you have one, or should I throw another one out here?
I can give you one.
Let's
Real
see.
or not, the Denver Nuggets struggles this season.
Listen, there has to be some truth to this. Like there has to be. There's already numbers. Was it Kirk Goldsberry that said this? Like
Yeah,
there's
there's yeah.
there's already the on and off numbers about Russell Westbrook that are damning,
They're not
where
good.
they have a positive net rating with him without him on the court and negative with him and by a lot.
Yeah.
The numbers we'll have to see where they actually like land in terms of NBA ranking after tonight. But there's that. And then the young guys, now these guys need time. I'll say that. Like I like Strother, I like
Yeah.
Christian Brown, I like Peyton Watson all in a vacuum. As a collective that you're depending upon to help extend the Nikola Jokic championship window, it's
Don't
tough.
love it. Don't love it.
And the bigger issue though is it's not even them, it's before that. It's like Jamal Murray looks okay. Like he doesn't look like the way he looked with Team Canada in the Olympics, where he just looked straight up like he looked like he barely belonged on that team. And that
Yeah.
was a team that had hoped to medal and got bounced in the quarterfinals, which you and I were down on that team. And we liked France heading into that matchup
Yeah.
actually at home. Um, and then as it pertains to like elsewhere on the roster, because Jamal Murray's just kind of okay, Michael Porter Jr., I thought he'd be a lot better based on like what Matt was saying in terms of like how he was performing, and he was performing like leading up to the regular season, but for whatever reason it hasn't clicked yet. And Aaron Gordon's just kind of like his flaws get magnified when these other guys aren't stepping up, because Aaron Gordon's a really good role player who's going to feed off of the shooting and the
Yeah.
playmaking that some of these other guys can provide. And then it's like, all right, so can Nikola Jokic individually just drag you to 50 wins? Maybe, but based on what we've seen so far, I mean,
It's
overtime
tougher.
with the Raptors and overtime with the Nets is not necessarily encouraging.
No. I think that there are definitely some like warning signs, to be honest with you, with Denver. And I think the team, like in theory, should maybe gel a little bit better, but like it's mostly the same. Like the starting lineup is mostly the same. And like Michael Porter Jr. just like he's the most frustrating person to bet on of all time, because you're
Yes.
just like, shoot the ball. Like you're an incredible shooter. Just shoot the ball. And he just like he won't do it. So it looked like there was going to be a little bit more of an uptick in volume. And there is like there's a slight uptick, but it definitely feels concerning because they are, relying on so many younger players. And I think that Christian Brown is really good. I think that he kind of cannibalizes some of the things that like Aaron Gordon does too. So it's like it's not. I don't really think it's like the best on court fit
Yeah.
to have them both on the team. And then like Brown is like, Russell Westbrook kind of does the same stuff. Like except
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook shoots too much, but like he kind of like Brown doesn't shoot the ball. Neither does Aaron Gordon really.
Yeah.
They basically only dunk. If Westbrook only dunked, this might be okay actually, but I do have some concerns with Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, and Peyton Watson, like I don't trust him like offensively at all, really, which is a concern. Like,
Yeah,
is he more than a hybrid? Is he going to be more than a hybrid defender? Is going to be my question. I actually think the long-term solution will probably be for Julian Strother to take Christian Brown's spot in the starting lineup just for the shooting, just because it's like, all right, they need a knockdown shooter in there if Jokic is going to, run hot and cold from three, and and the times he shoots them. Aaron Gordon's obviously never been a shooter necessarily, and he can make a decent percentage on limited threes, but they're limited threes, so their spacing has just looked awkward. And I think Strother can actually give you that, because there's a world where he can become an actual 3-point specialist and Christian Brown could play the Bruce Brown role sort of off the bench or whatever. Other than that, it's like they don't have enough shooting. They don't have enough depth. They don't really have enough size either. It's just a weird roster construction. And it's like the front office, for whatever reason, hasn't really, like, post title. They did get a title, but hasn't really gone all in that
No.
way. They let Bruce Brown walk, which that one I understood. And then the KCP one, which a little less defensible
No,
is what I would
like,
say.
it's defensible from a money perspective. It's not
Yeah.
defensible from like a title perspective.
Yeah.
Because it's
It
kind of
also,
one of those.
they didn't pivot is the other thing. It's just like, all right, promotion to the young guys, and we'll get Russell Westbrook and see what happens. And it's like,
Yeah, it
really?
feels like you're working for like a government agency where they're just like, yeah, sure, like you're okay. Like
Yeah.
we're not gonna pay you that. Like,
No, there's a joke in there that I'm not gonna touch. It's a really good one, but I just should not, given this week's events. Okay, we will go with real or not. Oklahoma City Thunder are the only team who can beat Boston this season.
I'm gonna say not because I think that there still might be some matchup things like later on. I think Oklahoma City 100% could. If Denver figures it out, I think that Denver can because of Jokic. Like he's just a matchup
Yeah.
problem for them.
They need to figure out a lot, but
They need to figure out a lot. But
they also need something that's not currently on their roster, which they may get, but
yeah,
we'll see.
and I think a lot of the other teams would be like a little bit of a reach right now. Like I think it's tough. I really do think it's tough to say like anybody can totally beat them. Knicks, the Knicks are positioned like personnel wise to be able to contend with them. Is it going to pan out that way? We need to see, but they in theory have like the right type of roster to probably contend with them.
I think the Knicks may be dependent on, can you turn Mitchell Robinson into something?
Yeah.
The weird thing is they have Mitchell Robinson, who is kind of what they need in terms of, like, when you watch them, it's like, our Towns had a big night tonight.
Awesome game. Yeah.
The Heat are a smaller team who
Yep.
switch a lot. So that's kind of tailor-made for Towns to have that sort of game. And also it's October. Like, what a lot of Knick fans' trepidation is, like, I think a lot of Knick fans, like, they'll be happy that Towns did this, but they won't ultimately care until he does it in April.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like, he's gonna be just on watch all season long for that matter. Like, Knicks fans they're smarter than that.
Yeah.
And I think with, like, their roster to be fully optimized, you kind of want a 5 so that Karl Anthony Towns doesn't have to be the anchor.
Yeah.
And you want a guy who can, like, be the anchor and rebound and things of that nature, which is kind of Mitchell Robinson, but also how much can you depend on Mitchell Robinson, which leads me to, can you actually use that contract, which is a very tradable contract, and turn him and maybe something else into another role player who can fill more of a maybe Hartenstein type of role,
Well,
maybe even someone who could stretch a little bit.
yeah. Well, I mean, that was like the conversation that what they were kicking around. It was like the Mitchell Robinson for Trey Murphy type of deal. Because
Wow.
you could run like Trey Murphy at like the 4. And he's kind of like you basically play him 2 to the 4. The defense would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just absolutely insane. But that was the thing I think they were kicking the tires on. But the tough part is that, like, you really need Cat to play the 5. That's what unlocks everything. So, like, I think there are some matchups where you could run them both on the floor at the same time. I think the biggest thing would really be like, okay, well, like, you kind of need him for Embiid. Like, you need like Mitchell Robinson for Embiid. I think that's the problem. Like, you can't trade him because, like, you kind of need him for Embiid. Like, but maybe you don't never play them.
But the thing is, with Porzingis, what Porzingis is going to do is he's just going to stand by the logo and just be like, Mitchell Robinson, come all the way out here, and I'm just going to shoot these over.
Yeah, so it's like,
that's
it doesn't
where
work.
It gets tricky with Boston in particular.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really work against Boston. So really kind of funky fit, but We'll see. If Mitchell Robinson can come off the bench and play like 20 minutes, I think that's probably ideal scenario because you're going to give the bench unit all those like second chance opportunities where you figure there's like less offense obviously on the bench unit. So maybe they could use some of those opportunities to improve some of the bench scoring.
Do you have another what's real or what's not?
You could go.
Okay. This one is just basically going back to what we were talking about earlier, but real or not, the 76ers will fall into the play-in.
I think that there's real possibility there because I don't think that they care if they're in the play-in either.
They should, based on last year.
They should, but I just don't think they care because it's like it's basically like, can you play Embiid and Paul George 50 games and get there? And like you're in the play-in? Probably. And then they're gonna say, like, all right, like we're healthy. So call it a day.
The 76ers are plus 800 to miss the playoffs.
I think that if they're in, they're gonna make it is the thing. Because like I don't think they'll fall into the 9-10 part. So that means they get 2 cracks to win. And they're gonna try their damnedest to not be the 8 seed because you don't want to play Boston in the first round. Granted, my thought last year was that like almost like if you're Philly and you knew you needed to go through Boston like at some point, right? Like last year, and they had like all their injury issues, like whatever. They should have tried to play like I felt like this is kind of like big brain, like I'm galaxy braining this. They should have tried to be the 8 seed to play Boston first in the first round because you are the most healthy. You're the most healthy.
Also with Boston, I was like, because people were saying, "Oh, you want to avoid Boston, you want to avoid Boston," and I'm like, "No, you want to play them early."
Yeah,
the problem with the Heat playing them early last year is they didn't have Jimmy Butler, Terry Rozier, and Duncan Robinson,
and they excised their demons by beating the Heat.
Right.
Like so, it was
they win that series if the Heat are healthy, I think, but I think it at least goes to 6.
Yeah.
Given that they had nobody and they pushed it to 5 somehow. It was like Bam and friends.
Yeah.
Will the Nuggets fall into the play-in?
I guess it's possible.
Okay.
It's definitely possible.
Okay, let's pull up the West.
I'm doing that now. It's tough to do this with this early, but
yeah, but like realistically,
it's totally possible.
Like OKC,
I mean, the Clippers are going to fall out. The Clippers are not going to be a top 6 seed.
Yeah.
The Rockets, I don't think will be either.
Golden State, okay. I don't think Golden State is better than a play-in team or much better than a play-in team.
And we got to know what's up with Curry.
Yes.
They're saying it's mild. He's being reevaluated on Friday. This screams to me like another 2 weeks.
It's the NBA. Sometimes guys are day to day and then they're out for 4 weeks.
Next thing you know,
like
Joel Embiid.
I always reference Jeremy Lin in 2016-17, where the Nets had him with a hamstring injury day to day for like 2 months.
Yeah.
It's just
preposterous sometimes.
This was like 8 years ago, but it's burned into my memory. OKC, Phoenix. A lot of people like Phoenix more in the regular season than Denver. That's not a layup for me, but it's more likely that it's not. Like that has to be minus odds for them to have a better record.
Yeah,
basically. Dallas
is legit, I think.
Minnesota.
I don't love Minnesota. I will say they were taking an insane amount of threes,
which is surprising to me.
Eye-popping numbers of threes. Yeah, like Ant's taking over 50% of his shots from 3.
Yeah.
So
that's intentional.
It's intentional. I don't hate it for them. I think that it's probably a good idea for them to do this. Do I think the Julius Randle experiment is going to age great there? I don't know. Probably not. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded by the deadline for something because
I agree with that.
I would be shocked if they re-signed him. So maybe you can trade him to, I don't know,
The
like
Hawks.
the Hawk. Yeah, everybody goes to the Hawks.
The Hawks
Or
the Hawks got pieces to do something. I don't know if that something should be Julius Randle, but if I'm Minnesota, yeah, you want like a Bogdanovich, a Kongwu type of thing. I don't even know if that might be too much.
yeah, I'm trying to
But
think of
like
like what team like would kind of make sense. Honestly, like the I don't know, man.
I would I would have said Memphis before Zach Edey got there.
Yeah,
Um
there's a lot of teams. It's weird because I think Randall's a good basketball player, but he doesn't fit on like a lot of teams. Like it's a bad
yes.
fit.
Yes.
So it's like, where does he go? But maybe you can send him to like a team like that's just not in the playoffs. Like maybe you can send him to the Wizards and get like a young guy or like something like a piece or something like that, like a Kuzma, in exchange for him that maybe fits the team a
Sure.
little bit better personnel wise.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
It's just weird. Like there's these players like this in every generation. Like he's one of these dudes. He can walk into like 20, 10, and 5. Although this year it's more like 23, 7, and 5. But regardless, he could walk into
Yeah,
those type of numbers, and you kind of look at him and you're like, don't know if you're a fit here. Don't know if you're a fit here. Like
yeah. Like
it's just
I
one of
mean,
those things.
him and I think him and Siakam are similar in like my brain in terms of
Mm,
like their fit with a lot of these teams. Like I think Siakam feels less sticky, but like Indiana is going through it a little bit with Siakam. Like it's not a perfect fit. Like if you had to scale the fit with him and Halliburton on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it's like a 5. Like I think it's like an okay fit, but that he was somebody that was willing to resign in Indiana, so it's a 10.
yeah.
So like that, like
And I feel like he's toned down
yeah,
the ball pounding. I feel like he doesn't need the ball as much
yes,
as Julius Randle. Like you can still function in space with him. He's good at I like Pascal Siakam in transition, always
yeah,
have also. So that helps. Where I think Julius Randle, he like intentionally wants to play mostly half court offense,
yeah.
right? Um and I feel like he's effective when he makes quick decisions, especially when he's playmaking, because he's a damn good passer when he wants to
Great
pass.
passer, I think. Yeah,
But going back to it, like I feel much better about Philly potentially falling into play in than Denver. But I'm throwing it out there as like, hey, I mean, given their start, it's not something we could ignore because there's OKC, there's Phoenix, there's Golden State potentially, there's Dallas we mentioned. The Lakers are sneaky. Like, I mean,
I think the Lakers are gonna be. I think the Lakers are good.
yeah, like they're yeah. I health I'm worried about because they got health luck last year with
Fair.
LeBron and AD, and we'll see. But they have players on their team. Like that, Austin Reeves is good. D'Angelo Russell, I mean, he was good last year. His hair, I
His
can't
hair is
do it.
crazy, bro.
But I like the season he had last year in terms of shooting. We'll see if it could translate over the course of this season. People are high on the Rockets. I think that situation is a little bit muddy because it's just a lot of guys need playing time and they
Yeah,
they need to make a consolidation deal. I was saying that the Pelicans need to, and now they're banged up.
the
So I
Pelicans have
mean,
I have no idea what they're gonna do with that roster. It is crazy.
and then also Memphis. Memphis is worth a mention here because I mean, even though they just lost to the Nets, I wonder if the Nets are just going to be like the Sixers with rookie Michael Carter Williams, where they got off to the start and it was like, yo, are they not going to be terrible? And then all of a sudden they were just terrible.
I mean, the thing with the Nets is like if you look at who's on the roster, like they have like some real players is the problem. Like they have like real NBA players. Like Ben Simmons, when he's healthy, is a good basketball player. Cam Johnson is I think a great player. Like I think he's very good. I think he's gonna go get traded probably and help a team win a title.
Yeah.
DFS good. Cam
Yes.
Thomas is much better at team basketball this year than he's ever been, I think. And Dennis Schroeder
I
is
love Dennis Schroeder. You
Dennis
know
Schroeder's
this.
like good. Like
33 and 8 against
yeah,
John Morant today.
yeah,
11 of 14 shooting.
yeah. Like well, somebody just commented. They said, "Do you have a team for Schroeder? He's balling too much." I,
Orlando.
Orlando needs him. Like just dude, just go make the German national team in Orlando and call it a day.
Yeah.
Like that's what they need to
Orlando.
do.
Orlando. Oh man, I think there are like who else is a guard needy? This is a great question for Ben.
Oh, the Wolves. The Wolves could use him.
Yes, because Mike Conley's older and you don't
But
want to
that's a
have to play
trade.
him
That's a trade that you could kind of swing with like a Randall contract, where like if you traded like Randall
back to
for
New York.
back to New York, back to New York, so his wife can complain about living in the apartment, and then
Uh,
so you could trade him for like Schroeder and like Cam Johnson maybe, and like do something with that, right, to make the contracts work. That would probably work for them.
Extension list Julius Randle, who I'm sure wants one. 33 million expiring this year, which is another reason why, to Joe's point, could get traded
Yeah.
because that contract is going to be valuable. It's also why they made that Karl Anthony Towns deal. They're like, hey, we don't want to pay this contract and we want something that's going to be off the book sooner. And the Knicks are like, we could afford this contract because of how we maneuvered our cap situation. So give it to us and we'll figure it out later. And this is our window, blah, 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 blah. Like they had their incentives for doing it. So he makes 33. Dennis Schroeder is at 13 million expiring. The math more or less works with him and Bojan Bogdanovic.
Oh, that would work. Yeah.
Cam Johnson is also at like 22.5.
I think Cam Johnson also is like a first round picks kind of guy.
Ooh.
Like I think that people would be trading for like the Nets are going to be like, we want at least a pick.
If he has a market, which he should amongst
He
contenders,
should.
then
Yeah.
yes. There you go. Dennis Schroeder, you are a Minnesota Timberwolf. I would love that.
I think
I would love that.
I think that they could
You know
use
who else
him.
would love that?
Who?
Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards. Yeah, bro. You would love that.
Ed would love. Oh my
He
god.
could definitely be a Minnesota Timberwolf. I think he could definitely be an Orlando Magic, a player on the Orlando Magic. I think both of those teams would be like really good fits, and maybe like maybe you could trade him to the Pelicans for in like a DeJounte Murray type of package, and like swing DeJounte somewhere else. That could maybe be
Brooklyn
crafted that way because he's a little bit more, or maybe Brooklyn wants to build around him, like because that's like DeJounte's a name, but I feel like the Pelicans want him. But maybe that could be a thing.
Does Dennis Schroeder make sense in Denver? Like, could you play him with Jamal Murray? Could you have a closer?
The defense would be so bad.
Yeah, but the shooting would be helpful.
Yeah, well, I think that goes into the trade that got floated around, the Zach LaVine one.
I don't like that one.
I like the idea of Zach LaVine on Denver, but I don't know if I'd want to give up MPJ, which is probably the piece that you have to.
That contract is rough too.
I think the thing is though, does it matter if the contract's rough besides from like the owner's perspective? Because the team is like locked in. Like that's the team.
Then you have to believe Zach LaVine is the piece, right?
Yeah.
Like the sort of, which I'm not a Zach LaVine truther at all. No. So like that's where I'm he's 43, 46 million next year. And the year after, a player option for 49 million, in which he will be 31 years old. He's also, he's had a bunch of injuries, lower body injuries in particular, like those legs. So like that's a little concerning to me. Also, it wouldn't be my first choice, I think. But like Jokic can make a lot of things just work. I think a lot of the guys that we see in Denver, like I don't know how Jamal Murray would be if he wasn't Jokic's teammate. I'm not saying he'd all of a sudden be like a way diminished player. There are people who believe that though. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
I'm not certain.
A couple more. What's real? What's not? I have two more. Do you have any left that you want to press on with? I can go with one first and give you time to think.
You pop off on one and then I'll see if mine fits in, how mine shoehorns into here while I watch the Yankees blow this game.
Jason Tatum will win MVP.
Absolutely not. No.
Is this still Luka versus Shai, we think?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like I think that
absolutely not.
Bro, Shai is ridiculous. It is insane what he's doing, like on a nightly basis. He is so good. And the usage is just popping off the chart. And they have like the number one defense in the league. They have the 12th best offensive rating in the league. And they have like literally they are shooting I think the second worst mark in the league from 3-point range. You know what they shot? Okay, so they're shooting right now 3-point percentage. They're actually worst. They're 27.6% from 3. That's the worst number in the NBA. You know what they did last year? The fucking best. 38.8. And they got rid of Giddey. You think they're going to be worse? They're going to get better.
Who's shooting well from 3 also.
Yeah, like they're going to get better. So like their numbers are going to be preposterous, and they're going to be the number 1 seed in the West. And you're going to look at it and you're going to go, you probably could have won last year. We're going to give it to him this year. And Tatum, it's going to be like, he got the title, he's got his gold medal. But yeah, everybody knows that Boston is really good because the team is top to bottom fucking loaded.
Yes.
And Oklahoma City's is also loaded top to bottom, but it's not looked at in the same way.
They're not as proven
as Boston. Yeah.
They're not as proven. That's what it comes down to. I probably agree with that. I would just say, because MVP is a narrative award, I'm not sleeping on Jason Tatum's case, because I could see the voters being like, oh, he was done wrong in the Olympics. And, he didn't get finals MVP last year, didn't get Eastern Conference Finals MVP last year. And like, just sort of almost like throw him a bone if he's close enough. But I ultimately do think, one, Oklahoma City can legitimately win 60, 65 games this year. Like, no joke. They could be one of those regular season teams. Dominant in that way.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Shai stays healthy. By the way, I don't think for Luka, because Luka we have to mention, because Luka is a walking 30, 10, and 10.
Yeah, Luka's insane.
Like, I think, and people have been trying to give him this award for years. He's entered as one of the favorites for MVP since like his 3rd season.
Yeah.
His 2nd season, he probably wasn't that far off, but the team wasn't that good yet. But it's been a long time. Like, Luka Doncic has been in our lives for a while at this point. I think those have to be the 2 favorites as long as they stay healthy. And it'd be great. Like, Luka versus SGA would be a lot of fun. Hopefully they play each other in the playoff series again. By the way, I don't know when Oklahoma City is going to lose their first game. It's not going to be tonight because the way they're playing against San Antonio. Then they have Portland, second of a back-to-back against the Clippers. Could be tricky. And then they have, this is going to be fun. League Pass watch party here, potential. Monday, November 4th, they play the Orlando Magic at home. That's going to be
a dogfight. Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. Then they also have Denver next week on Wednesday, not on Tuesday, because Tuesday there's something very important going on.
Can't imagine what.
Yeah, something very important going on that we should all take part in. Okay. What's real, what's not? Jimmy Butler finishes the season with the Heat.
Oh, that's a good one. I could see him getting. There's a world that he gets traded.
Non-zero chance is what I would say.
Non-zero chance, yeah. Like
slightly informed on that.
I would put it at like 15-20% that he is not a member of the Miami Heat at the deadline. I just don't know what people are going to be willing to give for somebody that it's like very clear does not like. He's saying all the right things. I don't believe for a second that he wants to stay in Miami. Like, I don't believe it right now.
I think he does, but he wants to do it on his terms.
Yeah, like he wants to get the contract that he feels like he's.
It's the last payday. It's the last payday. I think he wants to. I do think he legitimately wants to, but it's like you got to kind of meet him somewhere. It's one of those things, and I think the organization is stubborn enough, is what I'll say, like incredibly stubborn enough, where I could see them just riding it out. And even if they get nothing they don't think about it like, hey, we need to flip this, quote unquote. And I don't refer to players this way in a pejorative sense of doing it just for the purpose of this conversation. Jimmy Butler is not one of these, but from an organizational standpoint, if you're looking at assets, the Heat aren't a team that's like, hey, we need to flip this asset, quote unquote, or we get nothing from it. Like, they don't really look at shit that way. They're not that analytical about it in the way that maybe an Ainge or a Morey is.
Yeah.
They'll ride it till the wheels fall off, which you could argue they already have
Yeah.
to some
Also
degree,
true. Also true.
to some degree with this core, even though I think, I think they'll make the playoffs, but I'm not sure, how much like realistically you could expect beyond that. Like maybe you win a round, maybe if you draw the right matchup.
Yeah.
But they've proven a lot of people wrong before. I think he will because of the stubbornness, but I do have questions as to what's in the best interest of the organization long term. But I think we need to see more of the season for that to play out.
Yeah.
If they're like 13 and 18 2 months from now, I think there's an interesting conversation that you could have. If they're like 20 and 14 2 months from now, then whatever. Like they'll just play it out.
Yeah. They'll just let it ride.
Yeah. Like their over under was 44.5. That's I could see them winning 45 games. I could also see them winning 43 games. Somehow they got 46 wins last year. And I think if they're in that territory, then this is not a question. If they're significantly under for whatever reason, it's just season from hell type of thing, then yeah.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
can see it.
Totally possible.
You got one more on the way out?
My question is, are the Utah Jazz going to just hard tank this whole season? They're 0-4. I genuinely did not think they were going to be this bad.
Me neither.
Immediately. And my God, they really want the Great White Hope.
I was gonna say it's time to make jokes. You have a golden opportunity, Utah, at a time where a lot of people are just not being subtle about who they are anymore. You have a chance to get the franchise-changing player potentially, at least from a marketing standpoint, in Cooper Flag, who legitimately is going to be very good.
Oh, he's awesome, yeah.
But he's just perfect for that market.
It's so funny.
I'm not even saying it as a diss. You know what I mean? It's just perfect for that market.
Yeah,
like I was saying before the Knicks got Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah,
it's
a good market.
We have so many Dominicans in New York City. This is why I wanted the Mets to get Francisco Lindor.
Yeah, it just fits.
Yeah, it's like, listen, we will get behind Francisco Lindor in this city in a way that people from other cities might not know how to.
Yeah,
it's
just a little bit different.
Yeah, but with Cooper Flag, I think they're gonna just hard tank and try to get. Now, it doesn't mean they're gonna get a top overall pick, because you could have the worst record and still be fifth.
Yeah,
because you could just get boned by the lottery there. In which case, you could get VJ Edgecombe instead.
Yeah, this is a great year to be at the top of the draft and know that you're at least top 5.
Yeah, they've already I mean, we've already seen injuries, quote unquote, for this team. Taylor Hendricks is already sidelined. That one hurts because Taylor Hendricks is somebody that they have high hopes for. And when you just look up and down the roster, well, I think Will Hardy is a really good coach, and hopefully he's not the fall guy for this. I think he should be part of the solution. But Colin Sexton is a potential trade piece.
Yeah, Sexton's going to be traded somewhere. For sure.
Lauri Markkanen, I don't think he
can't be traded.
Yeah, he can't be. But this is something you could revisit in the summer.
Yeah,
because if you do get Cooper Flag, it's naturally you may actually try to flip Lauri Markkanen for, draft capital.
Yeah, or you're just we're gonna ride with these guys. We got him on a great deal. Lauri seems like he likes it there too, in Utah.
Cultural fit.
Yeah, cultural fit.
No, but Lauri's great.
Yeah.
I didn't want him in fantasy this year because I feel like by the time February 21st rolls around, they might just shut him down for the season.
Oh, dude, he's gonna be doing his fucking Jeremy Grant impression this year.
Speaking of trade pieces,
yeah, he's never gonna play.
Free Jeremy Grant, somebody
get him out of here.
Yeah, Keontae George, you have Keontae George, Cody Williams, you got a bunch of young guys on this roster, and yeah, they'll try to move on from Colin Sexton and John Collins, I would imagine. Utah's going all in for the tank. Washington too. Washington's not being subtle about it. I think Washington is going to be 10 terrible.
Washington's bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. For so many reasons right now.
Yeah, they have 2 wins somehow, but I don't think that's sustainable.
No.
Also, a team you can Kyle Kuzma, where's he gonna go?
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be open to moving Jordan Poole. I don't know who's gonna want him though.
Valanciunas is gonna get traded for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
He took the bag and is like, I'll live in DC until
like the election.
Yeah, right. He'll get traded shortly after the inauguration.
He's like, yo, and then I'm out, bro.
He's Lithuanian. He probably doesn't give a shit.
He doesn't give a shit.
Oh man. Oh, the election. All right. You can follow Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera on social media. Catch that podcast, which is great. Also great logo. You should check that out too as well.
It's right there.
I've been on it, and a whole bunch of other smart people have been on it. Joe, thanks for doing this. We'll do this again very soon. And I'm trying to do these on the YouTube channel pretty much every week. So like, comment, subscribe. And we're trying to grow best we can. Talk to y'all again soon. Tomorrow, doing New York Got Game Live, Dexter Henry, New York Post Sports. We're going to be talking about the Knicks and the Knicks and the Knicks.
Hell yeah.